What's going on, everybody? Luke Michael James here, and today we're talking about lenses. I mean, you put it on your camera, you see things. What more do you want? Why are they so expensive? So here's the thing, right, with shooting only prime lenses. There's this trade-off that you get between primes and zooms, which I'm sure most of you know, which is with a prime lens, you have a few benefits. You can shoot at a wider aperture, which gives you a shallower depth of field, gives you a more professional look, if that's what you want to call it. It gives you a creamier background because these lenses don't need to zoom. There's no mechanism that's need to be put inside of here that takes up space, so the aperture can open wider, generally speaking. Gives you a more professional look. Now, the only problem with this is when you want to use that in different scenarios and different photography styles, because you don't have the function or the luxury of being able to zoom in and crop into certain things on a whim. These are fixed, so things can get very expensive very quickly when you want to be using them for different styles, because you literally need to buy another lens at a different focal length, and it's not practical for everybody, which is why people buy zooms. It also means that when you do buy new lenses, you have to really think about what you're going to use them for before you buy them. So, for example, this here is an 85mm lens. It's known pretty much as the king of portrait photography. If you ask any photographer what their favourite lens is for portraits, they'll probably tell you it's an 85mm, whichever brand they use. Now, if you already follow me on Instagram, thank you. If you don't, you can click here to follow me. I think I'll put it here. I've still got to figure that bit out. But if you go to my Instagram page and look at my feed, you'll see a lot of portrait shots. I take a lot of portrait photos. So you would have thought that the majority would be shot on this 85 if it's so good for that. But actually, that isn't the lens that I've been using for the last few months. I've pretty much solely been using a 35mm, which I didn't really think about. I had it on my camera for a couple of months and didn't actually use any other lens, and I've been getting quite comfortable with it, which in a way is good, but it got me thinking, is there really that much difference between, well, let's say these two, the 85 and the 35, is there that much difference? So I thought I'd go out on a shoot and take both of these and try and get the same shots with the different lenses to compare, to see how different they looked, and just to sort of remind myself, there's a reason you bought all this. So here are two of them side by side, and the first thing you can see is the proportions are totally different. 35mm, I'm very, very close to Ollie, very low down, very close to his foot. It looks massive compared to the rest of his body. His leg seems to go on for miles, and you feel like you're in that environment with him. You feel like you and him are in the same place and the background is somewhere else. Whereas in the 85mm, you get much more traditional and correct proportions, but you feel like you're looking from one place into where he is and then seeing what's in another place behind him. With the 35mm, it's almost like you're just like this little animal that's looking up at him. You can get this really intimate sense from the photograph that you are in that person's environment and you're with them, which is something I really like. Now that being said, there is one thing that the 35mm simply cannot live up to compared to the 85mm, and that is background separation. I mean, look at these two images side by side. You do feel that intimacy in the left-hand image, you do feel in that environment with them, but it is much more difficult to separate that subject from that background. If you look on the image on the right-hand side, he pops off the background, almost as if that background is just a white sheet that I've then photoshopped something in behind. Now this is because of lens compression. Now the higher the focal length, the higher the compression. It's not the lens itself that's doing this, but it's the distance between the camera, the subject and the background and how that all plays into each other. Let's just say for example that 85 is twice 35, just for this example's sake. If I'm 1 meter from Ollie at 35 and I want to keep him the same size in my frame, I will need to stand twice as far away if the focal length I'm using is twice as zoomed in. Now, if he's 10 meters from a wall and I was originally only 1 meter from him, I would have been 11 meters from that wall. If I need to double my distance from Ollie, I'll be 2 meters from him now, which only makes me 12 meters from the wall. I haven't doubled the distance between myself and the wall, I've only doubled the distance between myself and the subject. So I've kept him the same size by doubling the distance and doubling the crop, but the background is not double the distance away, and so I've essentially zoomed more into it than I did on the previous image. So with those points in mind, I'm going to put up a few more photographs from the rest of the shoot for you guys to look at and let me know which ones you prefer. So there you have it, that is my comparison of the 35 and 85mm lenses. Let me know what you thought, which ones you preferred, down in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you have, smash that like button. If you haven't, sorry, I'll try again in the next video. But yeah, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell notification so you can see when I upload. I am aiming to post every week to 2 weeks depending on what work I've got on and depending on how quickly I pick up the habit of making these videos, because this has taken me about a week and a half to put together. So I really hope you like it and we can start this this new year in style. So yeah, if I don't speak to you before, which I most definitely won't because again, I cannot hear you. Have a fantastic new year and we'll see you in 2020. Peace.